past couple years, economic stability in Japan has been nearly non-existent. The Guardian explains on December 3rd of 2012 that over the past 5 years, inflation rates are at the highest they've ever been in Japan, while time periods of economic stagnation are almost daily. However, despite the economic declination, Japan's government has taken a new approach to fixing their economic tolls. According to The Guardian, on June 20th of 2013, they essentially have implemented a bond buying program, which they've continued on into this year, which essentially allows the government to subsidize corporations throughout their entire community and allow them to expand and employ more people. Essentially what they are doing is giving $70 billion every single month to every corporation in their entire country. Now, as you could imagine, this is a lot of money, and the government might not necessarily be able to afford it. This is the controversy on this issue, is if they can raise the debt in order to finance the companies, in order to expand them, increase production, and really employ their workforce. However, it's something we must consider today, considering that Japan itself is a major tie to the United States economically, as well as of a lot of our diplomatic missions throughout the Asia-Pacific. From counterterrorism to counter-narcotics, Japan is one of the key significant actors that the United States needs in our efforts against the fight on any sort of terror. That prompts today's question that states, will the release of Japan's GDP numbers next week make or break Prime Minister Abe's mission to jumpstart Japan's economic recovery? And fortunately, we can answer that Prime Minister Abe's efforts will jumpstart the economy and they will make the mission. Now, this is true for three main reasons. First, because national sales taxes will stabilize the inflationary rates from bond buying. Second, because the bond buying program itself will increase the stock market. Before third and finally, looking to the fact that bond buying will enable Prime Minister Abe to employ his strategy called womenomics. But first, we can essentially see that national sales tax coupled with the bond buying program will actually stabilize the inflationary rates from it and allow the economy to grow. Now, this is true because The Economist reports on February 1st of 2014 that inflation essentially works like this. The more money that you put into the economy, the higher prices will go. And because the bond buying program injects $70 billion to every company every month, there's a lot of money in the economy that they really need to take account of for. Now, in order to do such thing, they actually discourage consumer consumption. In this effort, they employ a national sales tax to discourage some consumers from buying from certain companies in order to allow companies to actually bring their prices back down. Essentially put, if I gave you $100, then companies are going to raise their prices. However, if I discouraged you from essentially buying from that company, companies would have to bring their prices back down and keep them at that same rate. So we're essentially putting more money into companies to allow them to expand while keeping these rates stable because of additional sales taxes. And this is what Japan is actually doing. Furthermore, CNN Money reports on February 2nd of 2014 that the national sales tax that they are going to be implementing is going to increase the current sales tax of 5%, and they're going to increase it to 8%. And then over their projections, based upon the logic that I just gave you, essentially says that they will stabilize inflation at the perfect rate that every economy wants to achieve, which is at a minor 2%. Now, the minor 2% will then allow a lot of things to happen. Customers will be able to consume more often, will be able to experience the positive economic growth that Prime Minister Abe is looking for, and then furthermore, will be able to escape declination. So it will make his economy. But second off, the bond buying program itself will also increase the stock market. If I gave you $70 billion, there's probably a lot you could do with it. Hopefully you do the bad thing. But essentially, the bond buying program is allowing companies to reinvest in their own corporations, expand their operations, and employ a solid workforce, to where $70 billion can employ a hell of a lot of people. Where The Guardian reports on February 3rd of 2014 that the bond buying program has increased the stock market substantially, where the Japan Topics Index, which measures the overall productivity of businesses, has actually increased by 1.9%. And then the stock market price average, which actually measures how well the stocks themselves are doing for the potential investors, have also increased by a major 12.1%. More investors are encouraged to invest there. The bond buying program is actually having a lot of promising signs of economic recovery, and it's working. CNN Money further reports on January 30th of 2014 that because they're being able to invest more in their own domestic enterprises and increase productivity, they don't have to import as much, meaning that their trade deficit with other countries goes down substantially. CNN Money furthers that the trade deficit is actually lowered by $40 billion every single year in Japan because of this. Now, although 70 billion versus 40 billion might be a major difference, it's a good sign of economic recovery, proving that it may make his mission. But third and finally, By the bond buying program allowing companies to expand, Prime Minister Abe is able to expand his idea of womenomics. Now, womenomics is exactly what it sounds. It's women in economics. And it's allowing women to participate in the workforce like they should be able to. Japan is a democratic society, and that's what they believe in. However, women currently are being underrepresented throughout Japan's economy. To where CNN Money further reports in a separate article on February 6 of 2014 that women make up 50% of university graduates. However, only 1 in 5 of those women get a job. In order to fix this program, Prime Minister Abe is implementing strict fines onto companies that turn away women based upon their gender. And then furthermore, he projects, according to CNN itself, on February 5th of 2014, that this will increase the amount of women in the economy, and in the workforce especially, by 30% by 2020. So by enabling him with more money and more funds to expand and invest back into his own economy, and even gain more funds by punishing those that don't actually correspond and go by his laws that he's implementing, he's able to implement womenomics, increase more people in the workforce, and generate more output, proving it will make his mission. And so when we return to the question today that states, will the release of Japan's GDP numbers next week make or break Prime Minister Abe's mission to jumpstart Japan's economic recovery? We can fortunately answer yes. It will make his mission to jumpstart the economic recovery. Now, I'm an economist, obviously, and you should all believe me. However, we can see that this is very true for 3 main extra reasons. First, because national sales tactics manipulate consumption in a way that it can reduce the effects of inflation from bond buying. Second, because bond buying itself is investing much money into Japan's economy to allow it to be productive. And then third and finally, because it enables Prime Minister Abe to employ womenomics and increase their workforce. So although $70 billion per company per month is a lot of money, it allows them to be productive, ensure democratic stability, and possibly give them a bright future ahead.
Alrighty, first off, Doug, congratulations on a wonderful speech. That was a joy to watch. But I have a few questions for you. First, is there a threat of higher inflation from this gift of money that's going to businesses?
You know, you'd think there would be, considering it's so much money going in there. However, based upon other economic data, especially when we look to the United States itself, who implements a similar program of bond buying, we're able to increase taxes, which discourage consumption for a certain amount of time, to where the competition or the companies that are actually selling us the products then have to bring those prices back down. And so inflation, though it might make sense, it would go up because of this. Because we're implementing sales taxes, it reduces that effect.
Okay. Further on the discouragement from businesses, how is that exactly going to work at helping to bring businesses back into prosperity by like discouraging them from buying there?
Oh, it's just for a certain amount of time. Essentially, basically what bond buying is inflation, when we put more money into it, companies are more likely to increase their prices if you make more money. However, if you put a sales tax on, you discourage consumers from buying for certain companies from a time, but because of the sales tax, they have to bring their prices back down because they need to stay in business.
Yeah. Awesome. Next, will this gift of money towards businesses be a long-lasting thing, or will it just last until the economy is in a place where it's sustainable?
Well, I hope that it's not a long-term thing. Japan's a key ally of ours. I really hope that they don't do it for a long time. But if we see anything with like the United States especially, our bond buying program is still going on. But in order to end it, they have to gradually taper off.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Women adding 30% more to the workforce. What kind of incentives is Abe going to put in place in order to ensure that this happens?
Abe is going to put in one incentive and one deterrent. The deterrent is going to be the fine. Mm-hmm. If you don't hire women, you're going to get fined. The second incentive is just, in general, people will gain more productivity by having more employees. Mm-hmm. And so I would imagine the incentive being, if you want more money, employ more women.
And finally, is Abe's mission going to be deterred if these GDP numbers come out and it's less, or do you think he will continue along this trend?
Based upon the analysis and things that I've read personally, I believe that the GDP numbers won't come out like that, because based on the United States model, who also does the exact same program, our numbers are going up. However, if they do come out low, I would imagine some reform would have to take place.
Awesome. And that's all I got.
Thank you.